The best skill you can train is to be coachable, because if you're coachable, you are adaptable and you are willing to learn. You belong to a generation that what you learn today, you will have to unlearn in the next 3 years. So stay coachable. And within being coachable is to build living in a world when I don't know what kind of job I have in the next 3 years. That is the skill we need to train nowadays. I want to remove the whole position thing, way up and down. To make some sort of career that goes in that direction or even down is important sometimes to acquire new skills so you are attractive in the future.
Welcome to this new episode of Beyond the Thesis with Papa PhD. Today I have the great pleasure of having with me Dr. Tina Persson. Tina Persson is an assistant professor, an ICF certified career leadership and team coach, and she has 20 years of experience in academia and 10 years in the corporate sector. As CEO of Passage to Pro, a global educational and coaching company, Tina provides career coaching, leadership training, and team development for professionals in a fast-paced, AI-driven world where innovation is a future skill. Tina, welcome to Beyond the Thesis with Papa PhD. I've known of you for a long time, and I'm super happy that we connected and that we can be here today talking at the Papa PhD microphone.
I'm so happy to be here as well and discussing with you, David, because I have known you for many, many years as well while I was running my podcast, PhD Career Stories. So Papa PhD was one of those podcasts that we actually were following. So I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, well, it's mutual. Same thing here. So Tina, can you share a little bit more with the audience about who you are, what motivates you to do what you do, what motivated you to run the podcast PhD Career Stories for all that time, all those years that you did, and also tell us a little bit about your current project. So maybe start with your path through academia.
Yeah, my path is now many years ago, but I never really planned to stay in academia. I just happened to end up in academia, as I think many PhDs and postdocs do. I had a dream also, sort of, what the professorship was. So I could see the big professors on stage, and they were performing, discussing science, and it seems to be a job where you can travel and meet a lot of people. So I very early on was hijacked, I usually say, to become a PhD. It was my supervisor when I was doing my master's studies that wanted me to start a PhD in organic chemistry. So, and in those days, it wasn't a position. You started, and then after a while, you could close your PhD, which I did successfully. I was a good organic chemist, no doubt about it. And it was my supervisor, actually, that said to me that, have you thought about doing a postdoc? And David, I didn't know what it was. My parents, they are not academic. I didn't come from an academic family. So I thought, okay, a postdoc, but what is that? I said, well, you can go abroad to a lab. And I thought, yeah, go abroad. I like to do that. So I went to Germany and to the Max Planck and entered the RNA world. It was really, really in the infant of the RNA world, where maybe they globally were 300 scientists. And I started to study catalytic RNA. And that was an amazing time. It was tough. It was hard, as it is. But looking back, a great time. So my thoughts when I was there was sort of never thinking about what you can do beyond. So it was the only logical step was to go and continue and apply for some sort of assistant professorship. So I succeeded to get one, first a lecture and then assistant professorship at Lund University. And looking back, I like to share that I wish I had investigated a little bit more, because performing a PhD in a postdoc is very, very vastly different from being an assistant professor. So that was, I was not really driving my own car. I was a great postdoc. I wasn't a bad assistant professor. But only after 2-3 years, I started to feel I'm not focusing on what I really like. So catching up what I said, I like to explore. I like to meet new people. I'm very curious. And working as an assistant professor with the responsibility of having postdocs, PhDs, and driving in the funding was for me, it was too much pressure, and I wasn't trained for it. I wasn't prepared. And I was doing the wrong things that didn't give me energized. I was sitting writing fund applications, looking for money. It was a lot about understanding the broader and wider ecosystem. You need actually to have a plan when you're a young researcher. It's just not to start. You have to be very careful who you recruit and who you network with, and connections and mentorship and collaborations. I didn't get it. So after only 3 years, I took a decision. I'm going to take my docentur, it's a title in Sweden, half to professor, and then I'm going to leave. And I didn't tell anyone, but when there was 1 year left, I organized a conference. I told my PhDs and postdoc, this is it. This is it. I will leave. And I couldn't have imagined, David, it was going to be so difficult. But that is what I did. I took a sharp leave from the academic. That's the beginning. So that is my story, how I ended in academia. But I was also very naive, thinking that I will be attractive. It's going to be easy to get the job. And it wasn't. It wasn't. So from that struggle I faced is all my inspiration to the podcast, PhD career stories, and the frameworks I have developed, and sort of the motivation I have to keep up fighting, helping postdocs and PhDs.
Amazing. Well, I think it's a story that certainly resonates with me, and why I started Papa PhD at the time. It's just you took it further in your academic career than I did. I pivoted way earlier, just after the PhD. Well, it is what it is, right? You and what you did also informs what you do today. So you just mentioned thinking, I have this career that was productive, that was rich, and that you were proud of, and you felt that you were going to be naturally attractive to employers out there. And then you hit that kind of cold, wall of, it's a wall, right? Of ignorance of what a PhD is, et cetera, et cetera. Can you talk a little bit about, an example maybe, or reflections on what the issues were that were blocking you at that time, that you ended up needing to learn and work around maybe? And then also maybe share some insights on how you were able to navigate that, and to become attractive after some work.
Mm. Yeah, it's a very good question, because I still remember, because this is also something that affected me a lot. It took me many years to change my mindset. I usually tell my clients, and I try to remind myself, this is a mindset shift you have to go through. So when you stay in academia, I tend to say the longer you stay, the harder it is. And it's not about your technical skills, it's about your mindset. So my mindset when I was in academia was, I am attractive. I am in the forefront. I was already 95 to 2000, 2005, collaborating with people in the RNA world. I was in the community with Jennifer Doudna, Nobel Prizes. So for me, I was already in, and I had all these visions, So I was not in line with what the surrounding biotech companies and pharmaceuticals were. They were not interested in RNA. There's, by the way, a very good documentary in Germany, Arte. So unfortunately not in Canada and United States, but Arte in Germany. If you listen here, check that one, because it describes that in those days it was about DNA and proteins. So when I wrote my resume and I started to apply, firstly, I looked from my perspective what I thought they need. Yeah. This is what you need. This is what's going to be great in the future. Companies look on the other side. They say, this is what we need now. So you, Tina, you have to help us what you can do for us. And honestly, I didn't understand the question from the beginning. Yeah. I just said, yeah, but that is, you need me because of. So I was on the wrong level, mindset, if I put it that way. So it took me quite a while to start to figure out that we spoke different languages, different expectations. And my level was the research, looking at the research. Companies, they are interested in me. Tina, what do you want? What kind of position? What do you want to do in the company? Is it sales, marketing, regulatory, compliance? Where do you fit in? Where do you have your drives? That was not on my agenda at all, David. I said, well, give me a job and I do it. That was basically, just tell me what to do, I do it, okay? So that was the wrong mindset I had. What helped me, though, was that my parents are in sales, or were in sales. They are retired now for many years. So they never understood me either. So we had these arguments at home. So I thought, if it's so that I don't understand the companies, because I realized when I started to communicate with people, hiring managers, recruiters, it was sort of a dead end, that they never called me back, and I didn't understand them. I thought, okay, now I need to do the job myself. I have to headhunt the job myself. So what I did was I started to call around to companies and speak with people, basically. And after a while, I realized it must be me. Yeah, it can't be wrong with everyone. So I started to approach recruiting companies. And that was a great thing to do, because I realized that recruiters, and now I come maybe to my big ego again here, David, I realized that recruiters, they didn't understand my resumes. So how do Tina think? They need me, because if they get me, I will understand PhD's resumes. I will understand the value PhD's offer, and then I can help the companies. So this helping and the big ego I have sort of came through. So I told the company, you need me. I understand life science. I understand academic people. I understand the PhDs. And that was in the beginning, when more and more PhDs were coming out on the market in Sweden. So they said, we give you 6 months. After that, you will have to do your overhead. And I didn't know what that was, David. Overhead? What's the problem? So sometimes you need to jump on something that you don't understand, so you succeed, because I didn't see the problem. And I succeeded. Yeah.
Yeah. Here we are today. No, but that's a great example, and it's interesting. I find it really interesting that first you were in this kind of lack of understanding of what was happening, right? If it's like I'm speaking a different language than theirs, and there's no communication. But then you went and you said, okay, I'm going to try to understand what's happening, and you reflect to go see what was happening at hiring and companies who were doing HR or whatever, or headhunting or an area, and then that's where you understood what the issue was and where you could help. And so, was that your first kind of career move after leaving?
That was my first career move, and that the story doesn't end there. It was my shift into the corporate, and it was a huge shift, because it was going from academia to the corporate in recruiting. It's completely different perspectives when it comes to looking at money. So for me, it was a shock when I started, and and I had to sort of be part of a team. And I had a young manager, and he said, Tina, yeah, you are different. You are different. And when I look back now, I realize that I was an alien in that office. But I brought the money in, and I was the first PhD recruiter in Sweden at the time, and I have inspired more PhDs to become recruiters. So I'm very proud of that. But after that, I got the other perspective I like to share. That was another learning. Everything in life has a purpose, it has a meaning. So I started to recruit, and I got all those PhDs applying for jobs because I was super happy to have Tina Persson as a PhD. And that was the moment I realized I can't sell them, because when I send them to the companies, they don't know how to sell themselves in the interviews. So suddenly I saw the other perspective, got the feedback from the companies. And that was also the moment I said, here is a business. Here is a business. Here is something I maybe could do to fill the gap. But in those days, this is now 2007, 2008, a coach job didn't really exist in Sweden. I mean, coach was not really a real job. So if I had told myself many years ago, Tina, you're going to be a coach, you're kidding. It's not a job. Yeah. So it was not on the map to sort of be a coach. I didn't know that job existed, but I started to feel here is a gap. Here is a gap.
Okay, super interesting. And well, one thing, just because you kind of you said something that got me curious, and then you didn't close the loop. What was this thing about? Is this about reaching the overhead? What did you eventually learn that meant?
I didn't know what overhead was. So I started to do the sales part, and I'm still maybe my strongest skill. But in the corporate, now I coach executives and PhDs being in the corporate. I say, corporate is about understanding KPI and overhead. So you know how much you cost the company, because that is the value you need to bring back. And I didn't really get it. So when I started to recruit, my manager said, Tina, you need to get at least 10K in every month to cover your cost. And I said, what cost? so that I didn't understand that game. So I was too idealistic, David, in the beginning. I was driven by my idealism. So put it straight, after some years in the recruitment in 2009 coming, I had a hard time to work so strategically smart and clever that I should have done, because I was too idealistic. And that is also the reason why I left the recruitment and consultancy business, because you must like the money part and the culture and not be the idealistic person behind it. But to be honest, I wouldn't be able to drive my company today unless I had that experience.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
And it's coming out of academia, there's so much you need to learn that you need to have, you can't be just like, download from, I don't know, a higher intelligence, all this knowledge that people have worked years to get, right? You need to either go learn it formally, or be within an organization where you learn it, and then you can take it as your own and do what you do, which is what you did.
And this is, a reason why I say, why don't you take an MBA, so you learn the language, so you can speak the language of the corporate, basically.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I know, and a lot of people do. I've known people with PhDs who've gone that path, and often they want to, they're in the startup or venture capital domain, etc. So it really brings them a whole layer of knowledge that we really don't bring from academia, and that's really key in these domains.
It's key in this domain to be successful. You can get the job, but to be promoted in the future, you have to understand the corporate game, if I put it that way.
Yeah, excellent. Now, you were talking about leaving recruitment, but just before that, you were talking about something that I know and that is people coming straight out of academia, straight out of graduate school. Not, we can't generalize, but very often and mostly they have trouble selling their profile, positioning themselves in front of an employer that's not academic. And you noticed that, you were talking with these people, everything was great, and then you would send them, and things wouldn't materialize. And I'm sure people who are watching, who are listening, maybe already have gone through these types of interview that doesn't work. And again, like kind of you like this disconnect where you think you're a great candidate, and then the person in front of you really doesn't see it, right? Do you have, after all these years and all these interviews, do you have some main like points of weakness that we bring out of academia that then you are thriving to solve and to work on with the people you coach, with the people you work with?
This is what my career coaching always is sort of I try to reach into. It is connected to the mindset, empathy, to see, from the company perspective, put yourself in the other person's shoe, and then translate the skills. So what happened is that if I understand, let's say I'm going to recruit you, David, and I see your potential, it doesn't help that I see the potential. I need to train you to go to the interview. And that is so I make sure, one and all, that you do understand the job. So by reading it, you actually understand what the job is about. So what you're going to do, as I say, on daily basis, from, you come there and you leave. That's one. Number two, that you truly understand it's teamwork nowadays in companies. You work in teams very closely. So it's not all about you. It's about you in a team, and you must bring a value to the team. And that you're going to have managers, maybe even 2 managers. You need to bring a value to the managers as well. Some PhDs have said, I don't like my manager. They start to work against the manager. I said, that's not very smart. You have to work so there's a value both for team and manager. So you need to bring the value in. There are very critical factors, and that you need to see what makes me unique. That is basically the same thing how I tailor my skills to the job ad. Many people today use ChatGPT, so I'm going to provide some risks when you do that. Yeah. And that is, you take your resume, you take the job ad, and you rewrite it. That's very good. It's just that I can read it. But not only that, then ChatGPT take over and put the industry jargon in your resume, but you don't really understand what it means. To take a simple example can be stakeholder compliance. And I say, okay, what stakeholders did you have and how did you work in academia? And then you truly don't know what a stakeholder is. That's not smart. You don't need to use that terminology, but you need to understand if you talk stakeholder in industry, it means this in academia. So that is how you actively actually translate it, not to just copy paste. So when I interviewed people and when I interviewed people, I knew very quickly by asking 3 questions on the phone if this person was job ready or not. I know exactly when I'm coaching my client, and I always tell them, okay, you have a job within 4 weeks. Well, how do you know that? You're ready. You're ready. Your mindset is right, and you understand. And the feedback I like to share with you was one of my recent clients from Ukraine, and he called back because he was so happy. Oh, I had an interview, and during the interview, do you know what happened? No, I understood. I understood. Tina, now I understand you. And I said, okay, then you will get the job. And I was so happy. They probably saw it because suddenly I just understood what you meant and what you said. So this is, to understand that, okay, you don't have to be perfect in an interview. It's okay. I don't know what the stakeholder is. Could you please express for me what it is? Of course. And oh yeah, I've done that too, but I did it in this way. So it's about building trust that you understand. That's it.
And so what would be, let's say, you're talking with someone on the phone, what answer or answers tell you, oh, this person is not ready, and what answer or answers tell you, oh, this person has a job in 4 weeks?
This is a tricky one for me to express, but I could ask a
An
simple
example.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give an example. A very simple question. If I noticed that you applied for a job here. Yeah. Bad example is, of course, when I say you apply for a job as a project manager here, and I'm wondering if you're still interested. Okay, which job? You don't keep track on the applications, which I can understand. So that could be okay, but please remind yourself time to time. But then I ask, so why did you apply? It's very simple, easy question. Why did you apply for this specific job and this company? And that you need to be prepared to. It's a very simple question. You need to know why that company, why that position. So a short question that reveals a lot because you hear directly, well, I applied because of, I am looking for positions in a job field in which I do. And honestly, when it comes to the companies, that's maybe not so important for me, but the job field is. It's okay to say, I apply for similar jobs in similar pharmaceutical industry, biotech industry, IT business, and I want a job within that job field.
Yeah.
Perfect. This guy knows what they want. Some people say I want specifically, but most PhDs, they can't think like that. That answer, very few can spot on unless they have practiced and trained. The answer becomes too long, too fluffy, too weird. Yeah.
And so that's super interesting, and it makes total sense. One thing that I've seen that probably also leads people to not answer well to this question, and I've heard people that do this, and in a way I understand that if it's urgent for you to get a job, that you're now kind of applying anything that appears, you apply, and you've applied to 50 things in the past week. Of course, you're not so intentional for each one, and then when the question comes, you're not prepared to answer it. And so, have you ever? I'm asking, and I'm sure you have, because PhD students are, have this issue of urgency. That funding ends, and then there's, I need to get a job to pay my bills and to continue with my life. And although I've heard people tell me that they take this kind of shotgun approach, I feel that it may feel like strategically sound because it's a numbers game, right? So the more I apply, it's probabilities. Is there a balance to strike? Because I think away from beyond a certain point, I think it's counterproductive.
Yeah, it's counterproductive. So yeah, I think there's a balance, and this is a very relevant question because it depends where you are living. And this is also what I tell my client. Where are you applying? And let's say, let's take where I live, Copenhagen metropolitan then. It seems to be a big region, but it's not. So if you're sending out 200 applications, people most likely know who you are. So you're going to send maybe 20, 30 applications to Novo Nordisk, and then you send it to some other company. They have application tracking systems. So I had been working for Novo Nordisk as an external recruiter, and I could see people applying to all sorts of jobs. So what I then checked was, of course, is there any sort of strategy behind it, or is it just showing that it's completely different job fields? Because that shows that they actually don't know. Then it's better to call back and say, I see you have many job positions. I have a hard time to see where I fit in, but if I like this and I get all of that stuff, what would fit me? They know that. Companies, they know that. So they say, apply for those. That fits you. The other one is, if you now live in India or you live in China, you have to send vastly many more applications. But I still know people in India, they go and knock doors because they want to stand out from all these applications that nowadays are written by ChatGPT. Yeah. So I think that you should, of course, have an activity because it's activity in is activity out. I'm a natural scientist, and I do that with my clients also. What's your activity? Okay, I can't say anything less. Too few applications for me to know if your strategy is good or bad. I need more applications from you because you, my client, need to help me to understand what their sort of hiccup is in the process. And when I figure that out with them, that's the moment they start to move forward. So, yes, but be strategic. Don't apply randomly. But what you can have is, I want to go to industry.
Mhm.
It seems to be hard, so I maybe keep a door open for another postdoc. I don't recommend it, but instead of going unemployed, it could be better.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, just because of the current situation, of course.
Current situation is what it is, and I have been in that situation myself. I haven't told you yet, but I have been unemployed twice. I have even been fired. David. I got fired. So I'm through that myself. So sometimes we don't get what we want, but it's not a sprint. It's not a sprint. So it's a long-term decision where you want to go.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. And yeah, I find it interesting what you say about, yes, apply a certain amount, but be strategic about it. Randomness is not good. And and like you said, and this is it's a point of view I had never heard, but it totally makes sense. An institution, an employer will see if you're applying to 10 completely different positions in there, and it'll feel strange to them. It won't be a good sign. And
It's not a
so
good sign.
don't do it.
Don't do that. And, I was nice, David. When I had these opportunities, I was calling them up and I said, you applied for 40 positions here now in the same company. Yeah, yeah, right. Oh, yeah. They were super happy. And I said, but what do you really want in your life? You apply from sales to R&D lab to compliance and procurement. So do you know what the jobs are about? And they were desperate, David. I'm desperate. I need a job. Yeah, but you still need a strategy.
Yeah.
So I gave them feedback. Maybe you could be a consultant for a while or something.
Okay, that's super good. And this consulting route is one that I've seen people take and lead to then very good careers for sure. And it's I guess for employers it's a safer way to engage with potential collaborators because it's for them there's less engagement, there's less less engagement, and the person is kind of freelancing in a certain way, but consulting. And then eventually I've seen people actually build careers within companies from consultant to something else. Now, this is super interesting. Thank you for sharing all of this, because people coming out of grad school don't have this point of view on it. Now, one thing that we mentioned in passing is the current status of the job market. And I wonder whether, and given that you have like international, that you're dealing with people and coaching and helping people internationally, this conjuncture, this current state of things phrase is one that we hear a lot. But do you have your own kind of X-ray of what it actually means and what it actually means for PhDs coming out onto the job market in terms of maybe, the patience they need to have until they land a job, maybe, the impact it may have on their strategies, like you were mentioning, going onto the job market. What are we living today? Like these last 2-3 years and the next 2-3 years, what's happening and how are you perceiving it?
Yeah, this is a very good question, and I need just to look back and share that I was sitting in that, I think it's 3.5 years now, 2.5, I don't remember. ChatGPT was released in the United States, and I think it was 2-3 weeks later it came to Europe. And I was one of those, registering, and I had to queue to get ChatGPT because I said, this is something I need to most likely incorporate very quickly in my coaching. But I must admit something here, David, and that is that I couldn't expect the tempo of the change.
It's crazy.
I'm sitting now writing a tender contract, and my collaborator is ChatGPT. And it's so fast. Something that took me a week, I've done in 3 hours. On the other hand, now the university is writing the tenders. They want me to perform on a video just to make sure that I have the right appearance and all of that, because it's so easy to write. And I think it's a bit scary. And I have clients, I'm coaching executives in United States working at Yale, and they also use ChatGPT, and they say the same. It's an enormous transformation that has occurred. So yes, PhDs today, they are trained in a world that is vastly more conservative and slow-paced than the world they will enter, because the companies can't wait. So what we experience, and this is just there's so many things going on in the world, and I don't involve politics because I can't impact it. Politics has its own life, but there was a very famous entrepreneur in Sweden. He's one of my role models. Well, maybe not role model, but I admire him somehow. His name was Stenbeck, Jan Stenbeck. And he changed Sweden fundamentally from television and broadcasting. And the shift was, he also brought the mobile phone to Sweden, but he was trained in the United States and took all of that with himself to Sweden. And he said, this I still think counts, that technology will always beat politics.
Mhm.
So he always said to the politicians, no point you striving to look back, because technology will beat you. So you better learn and adapt. And I think he's right. So the shift we see now is, of course, politics going on. The global scene is changing. There's a different game going on, but it's also AI and technology pushing. So the companies I have been in touch with, they are sort of changing now and say, okay, what's AI going to change and what AI will mean in our business? So I was giving a keynote in Lund about adaptability, talent attraction, and the competition in the life science sector. So I said, I think you need to think in a new way, because many PhDs and postdocs, if you look in the Western world, and United States and you in Canada, we sort of go together, even though it seems that we don't. But the people are traveling back and forth. The PhDs do, the postdocs do. They don't want to change that because they are metropolitans. So companies, they need to adjust to that and have teams that are remote or blend. So the leadership style need to change. The teamwork need to change. The platforms they work with will have to change. At the same time, you have the people in the lab, and they can't work remote.
Nope.
So we have a world that's going to be different. And I don't have a good answer, but what I say to my PhDs and postdocs, that is, the best skill you can train is to be coachable. Because if you're coachable, you are adaptable and you're willing to learn, because you belong to a generation that will have to unlearn maybe every year. So what you learn today, you will have to unlearn in the next 3 years. So stay coachable. And within being coachable is to build living in a world when I don't know what kind of job I have in the next 3 years.
Yeah.
That is the skill we need to train nowadays, I think.
I really love that you mentioned that, and it is super important. And people who are on the hiring side have told me that one of the red flags when interviewing or trying or looking to hire a scientist to hire a PhD is so a big red flag is the I'm the smartest person in the room attitude, and and that's one you said it in another way, which is not being coachable is a big red flag. And would you say, because this is another conversation that I've had, and that depending on the country and on the culture, it may or may not be, the term that I'm going to use may have different connotations. but humility. And you mentioned that you started that first job not understanding what it was. Like they said, this overhead thing, and you didn't know what it was, and you eventually learned. What is your feeling there, based on your experience, in terms of how the connection between this coachability and a certain amount of humility coming out of this highest degree of academia, which is the PhD, or even like you, postdoc, professorship, etc. Because, like I said, people who I know who are like in the business of hiring other people told me that for them, specifically in this population, it is a big red flag. Someone who shows
It's a super red flag. Yeah.
So
And it's a red flag for yourself as well, because you're going to be alone.
yeah. And this because, like you said, today's organizations, it's teams, it's teamwork that counts. So how do I, I'm imagining that I'm now coming out of a PhD. I have been maybe told, by the culture around me that now I'm an expert, and now I've decided to actually go into a space that I don't know. Could be industry, could be, I don't know, government, could be different, public service. There's different places where PhDs can be working outside of academia, but let's say industry is the one that commonly we talk. How can I kind of coach myself to be coachable? And also, of course, there's another way, which is reaching out to people like Tina, reaching out to people like you, because it's not an easy thing to do, right? But what are things that if I want, what can I say? If I want to avoid hitting too many walls, what can I start doing today to work towards this coachability? And maybe, and I'm going to say this, and I'm waiting for your opinion on this statement, but maybe humility too, to start at a lower or less prestige position than I had imagined. Because I think they're together.
But I want to remove the whole position thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why up and down? I would say it's not important. To make some sort of career that goes in that direction or even down is important sometimes to acquire new skills so you are attractive in the future. So this is a short mindset when you say up, 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 and I say up for what? In a corporate company, you come to a certain level. It's a pyramid. And then it's up to you to say, am I willing to do certain things to step further up? Or is there other parts of life or in my life that I want to have? Because I was a price to pay, So in academia, I think we get the mindset, PhD, postdoc, and I think this comes from that the supervisor is such a dominant person in our life. So what I'm going to say, we're not going to maybe talk about it because maybe another poster, but another podcast. But that is the leadership in academia need to change, and I think and believe that the younger generation of professors, they understand they can't be experts in the future settings. They need to be facilitators. And we can't have PhDs and postdocs leaving academia with an imposter syndrome at the same time protecting their title and that sort of, I'm an expert and I know things, I know everything. That sort of mindset is not a future mindset. But I remember that when I have been coaching clients, I know being coachable, and you pointed to something I like to bring up here, that is that being coachable also means that you are prepared to invest in your own career. That's a future skill. It's not someone else's, we have a little bit in my country, in my region, someone else's pay for my coaching, someone else, I said, no, it's you. This is about you. Are you willing to invest? The money you pay me, you get back in the first paycheck. But what I hear now is you've been struggling for 1.5 years. That is expensive. You have to calculate in money how much money it is for you to go around with imposter syndrome, maybe inhibit your own network, inability to communicate the enormous value you have for maybe over 1.5 years. That is a lot of money you lost.
Yeah.
So this is a new mindset of looking at yourself as not a product, but I deserve to invest in my own career, and asking for help and guidance is a future skill. I have written a blog about that. Asking for help so you become coachable.
Yeah. Well,
That's a future skill.
I love it. And it's definitely true. And there's a logical path, within the PhD, for example, to interiorize that, I must depend only on myself. And, if not, I'm not doing the right thing, and I'm not playing the right game. And this, like, this individualism is, it's true to a certain extent, but asking for help is key throughout life in different things, including your career skills, etc. I love it, and please do. And you know what? I'm going to take this moment here, to ask you to share with me, not this link, which is probably a long URL, but I'm going to tell the audience that these things that Tina is mentioning will be in the show notes. So this article, this blog post that you mentioned, you'll share with me later the URL so I can share it there. But if people are, who are watching or listening, are things you're saying are resonating with them, they want to know more about what you offer, what you do. I know there's a book that you've published too. Can you share with the audience, with the people or with the listeners, how to reach out to you, how to find your work, and your book too?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the books I have behind me here.
Oh yes, the PhD Career Coaching Guide. Awesome.
Coaching Guide. That was the first book I wrote myself. And the next book, where there is a launch, the 16th of June. So hopefully, yeah, it's soon. 10 days to go. It's it's Royal Chemical Society in London, and I'm the editor of the book. So I have invited really good career coaches and advisors with hands-on experience. So it's a full comprehensive guide. So I will, for sure. You can pre-order it, but otherwise wait till it's launched. And you will find information on my channels. You find me on my webpage, passagetopro.com. You can send me a mail directly. That is tina@passagetopro.com. And of course, follow me. Don't forget to subscribe on my newsletter. You don't miss anything if you subscribe to my newsletter, which you find on my webpage, and then Facebook and LinkedIn. Either me privately or my company. That's how you contact me.
And I'll just tell for people watching or listening, Passage to Pro, the 2 is a 2, is a number 2.
It's the number 2. Yeah.
I love it. Very good. I just thought it was the right moment to do that. And also we're slowly going towards the end of the interview. But do reach out to Tina or to me on LinkedIn. We are there, active, responsive, and we would be very pleased to have any comments or just any feedback on this conversation. And it's really easy to find us there. So we've talked about how, and you've made a clear point on how, from your point of view, technology is kind of a driver of change in how we navigate our careers from now on. And that AI is a big part of that. And I'm curious to know how have you seen, and you've mentioned some things even in your work, how you're using it and how it's changed how you're able to perform some tasks and reach some goals. But for people who are out there in graduate school or in a postdoc, not not specifically working on AI, although some listeners might be doing their research work on that, but there's a lot of, because of all the academic preoccupation about plagiarism, etc. There's a lot of that type of content out there when you search like academia AI. But here it feels to me like it's another point. It's another point of view. It's another angle based on what you said, that we should that we should take when considering AI as young scientists that are either going to stay in academia or not? And I wonder whether, and probably after editing this book that's coming out, you probably have very timely and very up-to-date ideas to share on that. How can we make AI our ally in this upcoming new way of building our careers?
Yeah, I work together. I like to share how I could have a typical session. I use AI as an ally in. So we have three. It's like three persons in the room. It's me as a coach, the client, and AI.
Mhm.
And one big part I play is to make sure the prompting is okay. And you would be surprised if you learned how I'm prompting. Because I always think like AI being a child of 12 years old with the world of information. So if I want, I can confirm everything that I already know. Or I use AI to help me to explore. But it all comes down to how I prompt. So what I learned when I gave a workshop now recently, I was in Germany. I used my career choice indicator based on Holland's theory. There I very quickly, get an idea of your priorities. Are you enterprising, maybe very artistic and creative in your job, As a computer guy, you most likely have a lot in hands-on as well. But, we work with AI, and I very quickly can do that with you in a workshop, let's say half an hour. And then I'm prompting AI and you can get an idea of your profile. Then AI already know a little bit. And then I coach you, then I know a little bit. And then from there, we can take it to, now we have a start together here. And then I'm continue to feed, but I have my coach eye to make sure I don't confirm. Because no, this was not. Now you imagine here what I want to do. This is what I want, and this is okay. Thank you for the tip, AI say, and then we continue. So let's say now we have been having that sort of dialogue, which I had with my workshop group. We identify the job fields, and then we continue to prompt. But not only that, we can extract and get the skills, get idea of the LinkedIn profile, get the ideas of headliners. Remember, only ideas.
Yeah.
I never let the machine write anything for me, copy paste. It's ideas, exploring, broadening, exploring ideas. And then when you come for interviews, what the skill gaps here now he had to be aware of so that we can focus on that one. We can build up a full case study with you. And there we work together. But I have the eye on, and now I'm coming to something very critical that I have experienced with people coming to me using ChatGPT on their own. When you train for an interview, you shouldn't sound like a puppet.
Yeah.
Because you used ChatGPT and you wrote, what is the correct answer?
And then you memorize
this question. And then you memorize it or you Google what it is. That is the wrong way of doing it. And this is not what I do with my client. This is where my value, I don't have to do a lot of this sort of basic coaching or easy coaching, as I call it. I can go much more into the hard coaching, the hard changes, where I can dig deeper in so you understand this question is about this. And if you go back to the Holland theory, you know yourself, this answer will reflect you, David. So we can go much deeper into it. That is how I use ChatGPT today. But this, it's sort of a facilitation together. So we are dancing, three of us in this dance here. And now I'm coming to the next one. ChatGPT, which is the AI I use, know me. I used ChatGPT for 3.5 years. I gave me a lot of feedback. Yeah. So when I was prompting, the workshop people were sitting prompting. We got different answers. And it could be very tiny things that makes the difference. So it's not that straightforward to use it. You have to be careful. So scientists that come from academia, I would say they need to broaden up and learn to explore and not be the expert with AI. Then they end up in the wrong direction, or at least take the risk, because they still don't know enough about what they are. Let's say you need to know something about what you want in order to prompt in the right way. I don't know how to express it. This is a bit fluffy to express here, I feel, but
Yeah, no, I understand. So saying it in the way I'm understanding is you can't, open an AI platform for the first time, ask it for a question and expect it'll give you the answer that you then can use in the real world. You need to train it in a certain way. You need to work with it as a kind of a as a wingman or whatever, or a wingwoman on your side that you bounce ideas with. Never copy paste, and then with time it'll be of more and more value to you, because it will be trained to your needs, to your profile, etc. So would you say start playing with it today in a certain way?
yeah, you have to start playing today, but you also have to think about here I am a scientist. But in this dialogue, I'm exploring. So it's actually two different mindsets you probably use ChatGPT for. So it's a complex thing, but I worked now for 3 years with my clients with ChatGPT, or as long as Chat has been on the market. And I can see that my support is getting more and more. And I say, to help to communicate with ChatGPT to get the most out of it. But the good news is, if you can chat with Chatty or any AI, you can chat with any key opinion leader in the industry. So you learn to communicate in general.
Yeah. No, it's super, super interesting, and I think you're right that for now, like in the past 2 years, it's been a novelty, a curiosity, and now it's becoming a necessity. And so,
Necessity.
yeah.
I'd like to mention something we haven't touched in today that I know you're interested here, and I think this is important, that you said something, and I just thought about it, that we moved on, but that was sort of that, what's the mindset PhDs and postdoc needs to have now when they go to academia? It is sort of identify the unseen. So what they don't know comes around the corner. So if you're just walking a straight path with limiting beliefs and being an expert, you will not see the opportunities coming around the corner. So, and that is the unseen. And to catch something that is unseen, you need to have an open mind. The other thing is what I heard from my favorite coach here, Buddy, and he's from coaching.com. And now I forgot his name, but he will forgive me, I hope. He talked about easy change and hard change. And easy change is to fix your resume by using ChatGPT as a copywriter. The hard change is to train Chatty to know who you are and that you fix your mindset. And that is transformational. And that is what we do, or I do with my clients.
Amazing. I love it. And you're the first person to ever, talk about it so deeply. And I really appreciate that you do, because it's, again, you hear so much about it in all the media, that there's so much noise, that to have someone like you just talk about it, with very pointed and very evidence-based approach is very, very pleasing, and I think it's important for people out there. Now we're reaching the end of our interview, and I always ask the guests to share some sort of motivation, inspiration to people who are out there, probably struggling a little bit to figure out what they're going to do, after their degree or after their postdoc. And based on all we talked, I wonder whether there's one message that you think, in thinking back on all the people you've worked with, and the people with whom you're working today, what is maybe one message that has kind of this common thread that is going to be helpful to the whole, to anyone who's listening to the episode and who's thinking, okay, I'm finishing my PhD, I don't think I want to, or I'm finishing this second postdoc, I don't think I want to do a third one, and I actually think I want to pivot outside of academia, but now I'm a bit lost and I don't know if I have any value outside academia. What do you have to share with them for motivation, for inspiration, and to kind of uplift them and have them be open-minded and go, step forward into their professional future?
First of all, to go from something here to something here is completely normal to feel, I don't know, and I don't see my value. I compare it by being an athlete, and you have been striving for a gold medal in the Olympic Games. And then you have the gold medal around your neck. And then the next day you wake up and you think, now what? That's the feeling. And that feeling you must learn to rest in, so that you let the opportunities come to you. And they come to you if you just stand up every day, make your bed, get dressed, and do your job. With help or without help, but that you do the day-to-day work, then the opportunity will come. And if you then realize, I can't do it on my own, ask for help. And also that a next step, and this is from me, I'm 60 years old, and looking back, I just wish, and I'm sharing something very personal, David. I wish I had put less pressure on my shoulders, being less unhappy with my jobs, and appreciated what I did much more. Because looking back, I didn't appreciate my sales job. I didn't appreciate my recruiter job because I was running around feeling like a failure, which I did in heart a little bit. And for what? Because without all those years in sales and marketing, I wouldn't have my network. I wouldn't have been able to run my company. It was just, I didn't know at the time I was going to start a company. So a dream can be changed, and you can have many dreams. And in the future, it's going to be so different anyway. So you don't need to plan. Be happy with what you have, and then take another step. If you're not happy, it's okay.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
It's a very important message. Thank you so much, Tina. This has been a great pleasure, and I think people who work with you are very lucky because you have such a great energy. Also, you have all this background. You're also very, forward conscious. You're kind of helping people future proof their career journey, and using tools that are of today and of the future. So yeah, this has been great. I know that people listening or watching have been able to take a lot of like gold nuggets from what you shared. So thank you so much for being here. I'm wishing you all the best for what you do. Again, go visit Passage to Pro to see more of what Tina does. Thank you for being here.
And thank you for inviting me, David. It's been an absolute honor to be on your show.